Let's get set up for the lab for measuring the magnetic field strength around a permanent magnet. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go into self-service if you haven't already downloaded Pasco. So you can look up Pasco and it should find this capstone. So please install that. I already have it installed. If you do have it installed, it'll be already in your apps folder, so you can just open that up. So if this is your first time using Capstone, some of this will be new. If it's not, then you will recognize some of these things already. So we're going to be using a magnetic field sensor. It looks like this. It has a big label. It has a wand here. This wand senses the magnetic field on this side. You see where these three little lines are? This digit, right? It measures the deflection, right, when it's pressed towards me, right, away from this thing. So that's the side you want to face your magnet. In order to hook this to your computer, you need what's called a link. So we have two types. We have a USB link that manually plugs into your computer. That's what I'm going to use now. We also have air links that do not require direct plugging in. They work with Bluetooth, but this is what we're going to use for now. So this fits in, right, perfectly into this link. And now we have a functional probe. How do you know it's connected to your computer? You go to hardware setup. So look over here. It's hardware setup, and you can see that it shows a USB link and it shows a magnetic field sensor connected to it. It says it's searching for wireless devices. Just ignore that. We're not using any. So close that up. There's nothing to calibrate. This is kind of a self-contained object, right? We're going to need to look at both a table and a graph today. So just double click on this, and we're going to have two things we want to measure. One thing we're going to do is we're going to measure magnetic field strength. That's our main goal here. So if you click that, this column will then have magnetic field strength in it. So if you want to test it out, right, we can just say record. You see this button down here. You can, you can press record, and you see there's a running value. So if I bring this magnet close by, that changes the value, right? If I put it this way, it makes some negative. So why does it say 0 sometimes? Well, I don't have enough sig figs. So this here, let me stop this from running. This here, if I change it, will give me more significant figures. So if I scroll back, the things that were originally zeros actually do have numbers, right? We just couldn't see them before. So you can see how precise this probe is. It gives you all these digits, and you can display them all, and then you can see what we've got. When there's no magnets nearby, right, you can see we're somewhere around 8 times 10 to the negative fourth, right? That's what we're getting as a reading of the Earth's magnetic field. You know, somewhere around 7, 8, you see some 6s, depends, because I'm actually like rotating this in the field, and as you move it, you're either aligned or not aligned with the Earth's magnetic field. So this way is actually north, the North Pole, so around 6.9 times 10 to the negative fourth is what this is reading. Okay, so let's stop this, and you can see that now I have 2 runs, neither of which I want to keep. So you see this button here, this is delete last run. If I want to delete both runs, I could say delete all runs, or I could delete run 1, however I want to do it. So now those are all gone. So now you have some options. I want to show you some other tools you're going to be using here. One here is where if you want to create a new column and it's not something that the probe is measuring, like you don't want time, which you could put here, or a constant, you could pick one of these constants if you wanted to. But we actually are, in this particular lab, are going to want to enter the data. So we're going to put user entered data, and you can rename this. Okay, so we're going to do distance, and we're going to use meters as our unit, and you can actually type in whatever you want that distance to be. Okay, so you enter that manually. So that's one thing you can set up. And you can also change the sig figs here by using this button. This will make it more, this will make it less. In your graph, you want the independent variable on the x, so you want to put that, and your dependent, what's actually changing due to your changes here. So then this will plot the graph as you enter your data. So the other thing we need to change when we're using the magnetic field sensor is we don't want continuous mode. Continuous mode is what we were just doing. So it was like running and running and running and running. It was taking a sample 20 times per second, which is we don't need that much. What we want is we want keep mode. Keep mode let's do a preview, I'll show you. So in other words, it's running, right? It's taking a sample once every 20th of a second, but it's not locked in. So if I bring my magnet close by, right, and I bring my magnet close by, if I want to use that value, then I would say keep sample. And then if I want to move it further away, and then I want to say keep sample. So I'm just going to press this button every time I'm ready to keep that sample. So I get things in position, keep the sample. And that way you can get specific distances without having to worry about all the numbers in between. So that's how you use the magnetic field sensor. If you wanted to do it differently, like if you didn't want distance in this column here and you wanted position around the magnet, for example, you wanted to use like an angle, like away. So if you can do that, you could change this to angle and you could graph it. So that's you can use it however you think is appropriate.